Hello, everybody, and welcome to my Patreon page. I'm Tracie Mahan, and I am here today with Lisa Courtney, and we're talking about love. Okay, Lisa, there it is. It's all you now.
Okay, perfect. Well, kind of the other night we got together and we had a little interview, which was lots of fun. And it seemed like there was a lot of readings people wanted about relationships, right?
Right.
Interesting. So everybody wants love. And oftentimes we aren't seeing love, right? Even though it's around us every minute of every day, right?
Oh, so true.
Right? So,
So
for example, my buddy Dublin.
We love him.
Yes, he was given to me by my cousin, who has a bulldog like this. And so this guy's Dublin as well. So there was my love from my cousin gave me this. However, my boyfriend does not like this puppy because he says it's a competition.
I'm laughing because my puppy in the background has chosen this particular time frame to play. And I don't know if you guys can hear him. He's running around the house, and I'm trying not to laugh, but go forward.
So with that, I'm gonna set him off to the side. But what that actually is that here's my boyfriend who's actually jealous of a stuffed animal, but that's actually love as well, right? He's showing love in a different fashion.
Is jealousy love and fear?
I would never say that jealousy, love, and fear. Oh, I don't know. I guess I tend to look at love more like. So I have this spiritual belief that love is everything, right? Pretty much everything. No, it is everything. And I can give you a couple of examples today of how much love I've received. Besides people saying hi and smiling, right? I count those as love.
Yeah.
Or people like one of my professors today. She asked me, she said, "Hey, are you doing okay? You were kind of quiet." So there's more love. Had somebody buy me a coffee. Oh no, yay! You have yours. And that's self-love, right? So you yourself and made yourself some coffee.
So I made myself some love this morning.
Right? You did.
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting because everything we actually need in this world is provided for us. And that's oxygen, breathe, what else? Oh, I don't know. Which is kind of funny. But we have so many things to be grateful for, and love is all around us in those different dynamics. Now, when it comes to relationships, those are a little more challenging, right? And specifically,
just a little.
Well, so with that, Tracie, tell me, the other night I kept hearing you say things like that. So what's your belief system around love, and are you looking for love?
I'm actually kind of not even looking right now. I'll tell you why. So I spent a lot of time looking for love, and there's a lot of belief systems that have held me back from love. And I recognize those, and it's always fun to have someone else listen to me tell my story so that you can say, hey, this is why you're not attracting what you would desire. And I encourage everyone to be open like that. It's like when you're looking for something, whether it's love or whatever, tell someone your story that can look for the hidden clues as to why you're not attracting what you desire. But I actually meditated on it probably 6 or 7 months ago. It's been a while. And I asked why I wasn't finding love, or, at least even one that was going to come in and teach me what I need to know to find the right one. Because, you see that too. And I actually got that I was not going to attract anyone into my life until 2019. And that had to do with my children for whatever reasons. And so it kind of gave me a peace of mind, and I kind of just pulled that energy back, and I'm just living life. And you know what? It's like, it's okay. That's when it's supposed to come, and that's when it'll come. And so, but I do get lots of relationship readings, and that's why when you said it can be challenging, I'm like, I'm working with a couple of people on their relationships right now, and And I see the heartache and I see the work they're doing. I'm so proud of them for opening up to the idea of doing the work. And so it can be challenging, but you know what? It's worth it. It's worth doing it. So
It is, right? It's interesting because let's see, I actually so I'm dating a guy who's Arabic, speaks Arabic, Spanish, some French, some Catalan.
you don't start that off with the hottie.
Oh yeah, the hottie.
I see pictures.
He's all the cute, adorable.
Yeah.
So right. So, but at that point in December of last year, I wasn't looking for love either, right? I was actually traveling the world. I had a 3 week break from school in England. And so I decided I was going to take 3 weeks and go to Barcelona, to Rome, and Israel, right?
Good.
Yeah. And so my first stop was Barcelona for 10 days. I'd been studying Spanish for 4 months and I just wanted to get my feet wet. And so I come across this open air market and here is this hottie, right? Hot looking guy.
The hottie.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And he starts to talk to me in Spanish and I'm only understanding maybe a third of it. But I did know he wanted my number.
Oh, this is good.
Important thing. But the fact is that I was actually traveling alone at that point. So I was in Barcelona by myself, not looking for anything but, just the sight. And I was open to it, but I actually wasn't asking for it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd already had bad relationships in the past, and I'm not sure that I want to do it again. So I kind of swept things to the side, and then here comes this guy, and I've been with him for what is it, going on 11 months now, and I know, and it's still been challenging, of course, right? Because here we desperately want this wonderful love relationship, which I actually have a wonderful love relationship, but then you have to deal with all your other issues that come up related to those relationships, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what I got myself into, but add to that the I don't want to say difficulty, challenges in a relationship that I'm in is because Spanish is actually our second language for both of us.
Oh.
Or third or fourth for him, but yeah. So his primary language is Arabic and mine's English, of course. And so then we're trying to communicate in Spanish, and we have maybe a high school level Spanish. So it's kind of
so you have to speak the language of love to understand each other.
Right? And it's not easy. I mean, frequently I'll think that he said one thing and he'll actually have meant another.
Oh.
Whether my interpretation or him speaking incorrectly, who knows? There's a lot of different things with that, which it's challenging, but it's so beneficial in the end because I'm thinking that it's actually causing us to grow together, to forgive and forget, and make compromises and work together on issues and not just let things slide and be so easy.
Yeah.
But I wrote something down. I said, what are ways that we tend to prevent love from coming in?
Sabotage.
How sabotage?
How sabotage?
Yeah,
so maybe I'll use one of, since sabotage is the thing I pulled out of my hat. I've seen relationships where people are together and one person's thinking they want out of a relationship, and so they start creating fights within the relationship, or not being their normal self around the other person, kind of pushing them away, saying and doing things that would hurt the other person, and just kind of continuing to sabotage the relationship to the point where the other person's finally done and walks away.
Yeah.
That would be some sabotage. Yeah. Some people cheat on others, and that's not a condition of their relationship, and that's a sabotage. And I've also seen relationships where they're open to multiple partners, and they do great. So it's like, so that's why I say it's not a condition of the relationship. Sometimes people are okay with that, and it's actually what makes the relationship stronger. So yeah, sabotage would be one, though.
I was talking to my buddy Dylan, and he actually mentioned pushing away. And
Yep.
what that was, he said that you would push them away so that they would actually chase you, right? To prove their love. So they'd have to prove it over and over and over.
Mm.
And so it's almost like a game, but it's also a protection piece. So it's like we can recognize those things in ourselves.
It's also a learned behavior. Yeah. They see it somewhere, usually within their parents. They'll see something like that. So that's a learned behavior that they see a system that they think works, and so then they try it. But we're not in the generation that doesn't get divorced anymore. So, good luck with that one. So.
And what I actually heard, one of our callers, bless his heart, his name was Troy, and he was so fun, so much.
Troy was fun, yeah.
Right? And he's oh, I just know she's coming. I know she's coming. So he's still, even in his language and his talk,
yeah,
actually still pushing her at bay.
Yeah, she's not there yet.
I think that
we froze up a little bit.
She's coming. Rather than saying something like that, I would say just simply that I'm open, right? Instead of putting that energy out that, oh, she's coming, because that's still out in front of you.
What about destiny? Do you think that relationships, like romantic relationships that are serious, are those destiny? Were those predestined before we even came into this world, my dear?
I think we have free will. That's my personal thought.
Mm-hmm.
There are definitely, people who are put into our lives that we have a choice at that point. It's kind of like a Tia in the road, if you will. You either get, go ahead and take this stop, or you turn and make the next one, right? It's just kind of, so it depends on where you're at and, what the choices are. And you've learned by that point. But I have people are put into our lives to create that destiny piece that you're talking about. But we still have a choice or option whether or not to take the apple, if you will.
Yeah.
Do I want an apple, or do I want to go get an orange?
Very true. Yeah, I agree. There's, I do believe that there's people that are destined to cross our paths, and I've heard some really cool stories around that where, people came together, and no matter what happened, they just kind of kept coming together until finally they got it figured out that, this was their partner. And my own parents, I wouldn't be here if Spirit had not intervened, because my mom had gone out with friends. I'm assuming that was a date that she went out on, and they didn't get back until the morning, and my dad was picking her up for a date, and he was sitting in the driveway when they pulled up, and he was trying to leave, but his car wouldn't start. And so after my grandma yelled at Mom for being inconsiderate and rude, because she was, she asked Dad if he still wanted to go out, and he reluctantly said sure, and then the car started and they left. So yeah, and then they ended up getting married and having 5 kids, and so that's why I ask about destiny, because it feels like, or contracts maybe. I consider my ex was a destiny that I had a contract with. And I even heard in my head, because I had broke up with him when we were dating. And on my way home, I can even remember where on the road this popped into my head. It was so surreal. I heard, "You're not done yet." And within 3 days, we were back together. And not long after that, we actually had gotten engaged. And, I realized, oh, this is somebody I want to be with, blah, blah, blah. And then after our third child was born, it was just, he was only 3.5 months old when the ex said, "I'm out of here." And I was devastated with 3 small children at home. But hindsight, I was like, oh, that little voice in my head said, "Yet. You're not done yet." And so it helped me to realize that it was always intended to end. So anyways, my little tidbit on what so I think it was destiny, because I attempted to leave that relationship and it came back together, and then 12 years later, then it ended. So I feel like he was kind of a destiny point for me, and who knows, maybe the next one will be too. But yeah.
Right. Well, what was interesting, so when I had my awakening back in December of 2012, it was
I like the look on your face when you're doing the math.
well, 2012. I know exactly. It's just and so never in my life had I been attracted to a woman, right?
Right.
I actually fell in love with a woman. So, and I don't know that I don't think everyone's had that experience before. And,
Yeah.
and I've felt love for other women, but I've never actually been in love with another woman. And it was such an amazing draw, right? To where it was like a magnet. I could not be around her. Could
Yeah.
not. And what's interesting is that after we started talking, and we'd see each other, and it never got any further than that, but we just talked. Is that she had told me for like 3 months she put so much energy out into the universe, saying that she, wanted a lesbian partner. She wanted this, wanted that, and those were all things that I had, in me. And so I think it's energy, to where if we put this energy out there, that it actually will come to us.
Mm.
And one thing she said, it's interesting because the one thing she said is that if like I was cooking in the kitchen, she would never come up and put her arms around me, right? Oh, I kind of like that, right? And so guess what my boyfriend does now?
I was going to say, hint, Hottie, wrap your arms around her.
Right. So Simo's totally putting his arms around me all the time when I'm washing the dishes or I'm cooking or something like that. It reminds me actually of our first date, which I should tell you about real quick.
Yeah, let's do it.
Right. Let's do it. So I met him this day at actually it was December 21st last year, so 2016. I should write that name down.
Quick.
And then he called me that night and says, "You want to go out?" And this is in Spanish, right? And I'm not very good at it by that time. And I'm going, "Okay, yeah, of course." And he comes to pick me up, and instantly, he's very tall, right? I don't know how tall he is because they do kilometers here, and I don't know. It's like he's very tall though. I would say 6'2" ish. And the whole night, it's funny because I feel like we're running. I'm going so fast to keep up with him, just running so fast.
He's got long legs.
Yes, the first thing he does, and I'm in Barcelona, it's warm, and it's December. We still have like coats on, but it's December and it's warm. And we go to the beach, right? And he ends up hopping on one of these wibble wobble type toys.
Oh my gosh.
It's adorable. It's the most adorable thing. And then he actually takes me to, we're walking the streets of Barcelona, and he takes me to this cathedral. And behind the cathedral, there are 4 men singing opera.
Oh.
Right? On like a Friday or Saturday night. I can't remember exactly what day it was. And it was gorgeous. And actually, I have tears running down my face because this is like the perfect moment in my entire life, the most perfect moment. But then he puts his arms around me and he recognizes that I actually have tears and he kisses my cheek.
Oh.
I know, right?
And she's hooked.
But then he took me for food too, so
Oh, even better.
Oh, paella. The first time I had paella.
Oh, wow. So he had fun.
Oh,
He was on it.
Even since and he just does those little things, these little romantic things that it's like, oh, you don't get that in Barcelona. Everyone's very touchy feely and affectionate here, and it's very public display. Not like in America. It's like, ooh, don't do that.
Don't touch me.
Yeah. They greet people. They kiss each other on both cheeks and things. So it's really lovely.
I think that would be fun. What a neat way to greet people.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's some you probably don't want to greet that way.
Fake kiss.
But no, for the most part, they're all wonderful. I really had a good time. But yeah, no, this guy stole my heart. Doesn't mean we don't have challenges, because there are those, definitely.
Well, and so let's talk about karma.
Okay.
Let's talk about these challenges that we're speaking of. Any soulmate relationship, which is just two souls that recognize each other, see the familiarity, it comes together. And it's my understanding that a soulmate relationship, or some people like to look at the twin flame, which in my opinion, the twin flame is almost impossible to even find right now, but some people think they're in it, and that's great. But they come together so strong. The attraction is so strong, the connection is so strong, so that you can work through those little things. You're brought together to bring up the triggers and bring up the things that you need to work on to learn how to be in unconditional love, right? So when you're having these challenges, it's actually a beautiful thing, because you have a partner that cares about you enough, and you them, that you're going to hang in there and work through it. And I've seen some people hang through and work through some stuff, and then in the end, they're just like this dynamic couple. And, it's like, you're that way because you guys stuck it out, and a lot of times people are like, I'm just not in love anymore. It's like, no, it just got hard, work through it. Oh, you coming in real quiet.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's a choice.
Yeah.
I think love's a choice. I do think, like you said, there's contracts that we're in and out of.
Yeah.
But I think that we have choice, and we can actually wake up every morning and choose to be in love with somebody. Choose.
I think so. Yeah.
Especially the night before. So what we did like 2 nights ago was actually pray for better communication, right?
Oh.
For prayer. He's actually Muslim, so praying 5 times a day is normal, right? But I asked him if we could say an extra little prayer just for us, so that we can communicate better, because I know that that's an issue, and I just don't want it to be hard anymore. So it's like giving it to God, right, or the universe, or whatever you believe in.
Yeah. Yeah. And shift that belief that it's hard.
Exactly, because it doesn't have to be.
No.
Set the intention on, if you identify one area that's hard, like, well, what can we do to make it easier?
Yeah.
How can we actually change that belief system so that
let's change the word to adventure. Let's see what this adventure takes us on.
That sounds good.
Yeah. That's a much softer feeling than hard or challenging.
I love that.
Okay, so we're in this adventure with Hottie, and look at where's this taking us? Okay, what are we going to learn here? How are we going to shift old belief systems that aren't working for us anymore? Yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So what else do you think?
Let's talk about the honeymoon phase.
Oh, okay.
So when is it? Well, I have a feeling that these days, with where the world is shifting, it's so important for us to learn that I think we're on a fast track with relationships. I don't know if you're experiencing that, but even like friendships or acquaintances or whatever, it's like fast track stuff going on. It's like, man, what used to take me like a year to get to this point, and it's only been, well, we're going to use Cherry. Cherry Divine as our example of that, where she meets Charles and now they're married. And it's, what's that?
How long was that?
A couple months. They got engaged sorry, Cherry, I'm not remembering all the dates right, but probably within a month or so of meeting each other.
Oh, wow.
And then they went through some ups and downs and backing out and getting back in it and backing and getting back in it. And now they're married. And, and that's not going to be without its challenges there because they're still getting to know each other. But most people, it's my understanding that most people, they did a study on this, won't show you their true self for about 2 years.
Ooh.
Yeah. So if you guys are out there dating someone in a relationship, don't be too quick to get to anchor into that. No, I'm just kidding. But there's over the 2-year time, people will evolve into their true self once they get fully comfortable with that relationship. So, I'm sure, like I'm saying, I think we're on a fast track these days. And so I think that happens a little quicker now, where people are starting to not be able to hide that. I'll use myself as an example. I dated a guy for 9 months, and about the first half of that, about 4, maybe 5 months of that, he was amazing. He would cook dinners, clean house. I'd come home and the kids were fed and the homework was done, and lots of things were happening. And if I had to get something and put it out in my car, he would grab it and take it out there, and just absolutely like this amazing godsend of a guy. And then it was like it hit this point where I think it was at the point where we started spending more and more time, because first you're spending a couple hours, then you're spending maybe a day, and then maybe there's an overnight, and then whatever. And so as we started spending more and more time together, it was a little harder for him to keep up with this persona of, I'm going to do that for you, I'm going to do that for you, I'm going to do that for you. And I think he had good intentions and he wanted to be that guy, but he also was not telling me that he was bipolar. And so that was something I found out as I spent more time with him. And all of a sudden it's like, something's wrong, what's wrong? And then the little fights would break out. And certain things, it'd be like, from day to day, I didn't know if I was going to wake up to the happy guy or the guy that's upset about everything. And next thing you know, then a holiday gets ruined because somebody's in a mood. It's like, so that was in a 9-month period. Usually that doesn't evolve until, in the past, it sounds like with these surveys that they took or these research things they took, to get to that point where you know that much about the person, the stuff that they're not telling you usually takes a couple of years. So I really think that we're in a fast track of things. And, and also I'm the kind of person that will pray, let me know what I need to know, or, is this relationship right for me? Let me see the truth. And so I'll say things like that in my prayers, and, they kind of those kind of things get exposed. And I don't want to say negative or bad things about this person, because really I do believe the intentions were great, and he has a good heart. But in the past, he was abusive with his ex-wives, and nobody told me. I had family members that knew him, and nobody told me. And so when I found that out, there was no way I wanted him around the kids, just in case, we don't know what his trigger points are. And so that was actually what brought me to the point of getting out of that. But, it's one of those things that, yeah, he's taking whatever medications out there for what he's dealing with. But what if he decides he doesn't want to take his medicine? That happens a lot. And one day one of my kids pushes his buttons. I didn't want anything to happen there. So even though again, my experience with him was not one of violence or anything like that. It was just more of mood swings. And I had already had a marriage like that, so I didn't really want to repeat that. And for me, I look at that and I think, okay, Spirit was showing me a lot of things that I didn't have the first go around, where he was being helpful, he was being caring, he was helping me load things up in cars for camping trips, and taking care of things in the house that needed taken care of, and being very helpful. And and actually, in hindsight, just doing his part, as being part of the household. But it was stuff that I always had to do by myself, even in my marriage. And so I saw a lot of things that I really want in a relationship and that I desire for a relationship. And then he showed me some of the things that were in my other relationship. And we didn't know my ex was bipolar until after we had separated, and he finally went and got a diagnosis for that. It took someone else to get him to go in and do that. But I think that spirit was showing me, if I would have stayed in that relationship, this is what it would have been like. Because he was, I'm Capricorn. I wouldn't have left. You're Capricorn. We're loyal. We're loyal little people. And I really love the idea of being married. And I would have done whatever it took to stay that way. And I think I was being shown that the advanced part of the bipolar as it was getting worse for him, and those kind of things. And so it was good to see that it was positive that I was no longer married, and good things came out of all of that. So yeah, and you're asking me about, the future. What do I want to see happen? And I'm taking this time that I'm not in a relationship and admiring the things that I love about other relationships. I get calls for relationship stuff all the time, which I always find amusing because I'm not in one. I'm like, but sometimes it's that person that's on the outside looking in saying, well, what part are you playing in that? Own some of this stuff. This isn't just the other person. You're playing a part in this too. And it helps me to see when I get in a relationship what I'm going to be, make sure I'm looking at myself as well, and make sure that I see the part I'm playing in whatever's going on. And I'm a co-creator in this relationship. So if it's not going the way I want it to, what am I needing to change? Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's totally valid. Interesting how we can choose to bring in what we want, right?
Yeah.
Have you done that before?
Have I what?
Have you done that before? Focused on what you actually want to bring in?
Yeah. I am the perfect example of how our thoughts will manifest and create, because I went through, okay, so single people now do dating sites. It's just what it is. I know when the dating sites first came out, it was like, don't tell anyone how we met. But really, how do you meet people? That's the best, that's one of the best ways to get out there and meet people. Well, if you want to know what your baggage is, get on a dating site, because you're going to attract your baggage. So, it's like when I first started dating, I was like, who's going to want to date me? I've got 3 small kids. I'm in this financial situation, everything that I could think of why people wouldn't want to date me. So guess what I was attracting? People that wouldn't want to date somebody with 3 small kids and, whatever. So then I was like, and that's the ego. This is such a good lesson because it's the ego. Now, you could line up 10 wonderful guys in a room, and because I have this particular belief system, I'm going to pick the guy that's going to mirror that to me. That's the one I'm going to be attracted to. Energetically, we know which one's going to give us the feedback of our belief system, right? Or you can look at it a different way. It wouldn't matter which one of the 10 guys I picked. If I picked one and went out with them, my energy is going to activate that mirror back to me. So even if they weren't that kind of person, they might be like, why am I saying things like this? I don't really feel that way, but it'll come out that way and I'll receive it that way. So that is, like I said, it's a perfect mirror into what do you need to fix. And when you start attracting, like you have Hobby right now, and he's doing all these wonderful things that you want him to do. And it just shows how much you've healed, because I'm sure in the past you've had the mirror of what you didn't want. And so, you've got that healing. So yeah, so I've been on a few dates that mirror back to me what I didn't want. And it's funny because I remember that I wanted my ex, and actually both those guys that I just talked about, my ex and the one that I dated for a while, were paydays this day, broke 3 days later, and it's like, okay, I want somebody that can manage money. Well, then I ended up dating these guys that were making me pay the bill because they were so tight. It's like they would sit there and tell me about all these investments they had and bank accounts and blah, 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 blah. And like they were like, that was their life, is their portfolio. And then the bill would come and they would sit there, or they would have me pay my half. And I was like, okay, how did I manifest that? And so I had to look at how I was calling, what it was I was looking for, and what I left off my list. They have money and they're generous. Yeah, because a lot of people that have money have it because they don't spend it. So it's what it is. And maybe that was some of my mirroring growing up, is that I saw people that the ones that had money weren't spending it, and they weren't going out, and they weren't for instance, my parents, my dad was the one that would control the money, and if we wanted to go anywhere, it was like, do we want to ask dad for money? And it was kind of like he was hard to he would make, I'll phrase it this way, I always felt bad asking him for money. So in my mind, he's the guy with money and he doesn't want to give it to me, right? So that may not be who he was at all. But
your dad.
What's that?
You actually dated your dad.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a good point. We date our parents.
Oh no, that's not a good point. No.
We do. We date people that mirror the things that we liked or didn't like growing up. So yeah. It's good. There's lots of examples of that. I bet you could find one. Oh, I didn't hear what you said. Sorry.
I think we should move on to another topic.
You don't want to talk about dating parents?
No. So, dating our parents, right? What happens to the intimate side of dating?
You cut out again.
Oh, so if we have an intimate relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, are you actually having sex with your parents?
Ooh. I hope not. I would hope that most people don't know what that might look like.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting because, that's actually a part of a relationship, right? Is also the sexual piece to it. And so often people view sex as a faux pas.
Right.
Talk about it, right? It's a sad thing. And it's like, I'm sorry, this day and age, you wouldn't be here if somebody didn't have sex. I wouldn't be here if somebody didn't.
Why are we so scared of that subject? And every time you turn on the TV, that's what they're doing nowadays. So, yeah.
It's kind of like a faux pas. And then, it's like you aren't supposed to talk about it and you aren't supposed to show affection in public. Which, like I said, here in Barcelona, they actually are really good about showing affection. I mean, actually, you'll see people making out. That's how much, not just one couple here or there. You see people on a weekly basis probably just making out. So,
nice.
Right? I mean, and touchy-feely, and they hold hands, and even the older couples, they're so cute, and they're so well-dressed, and, here they are in their 80s, and they're still holding hands walking down the street. It's adorable.
Who doesn't want that? That's awesome.
And they're probably having sex, too.
Yeah, they probably are. They're having more than I am.
No. But it is one of those things that it's a faux pas anymore. And I'm all, why are we so afraid of that if everyone is here because somebody had sex?
Right.
It blows my mind. And why not make it interesting or fun or actually, I think that a lot of times people don't know how to do it correctly. They tell you the different parts in school, but they don't talk about the intimacy piece.
Right. There's not a lot of demonstration of affection and intimacy. So we only have what we see on TV, which progresses really fast. And, it's probably part of what messes up relationships is, just seeing what we have on TV, how do those progress, and then what's TV doing these days? People are always fighting and breaking up or whatever. And, if these are our examples of relationship now, I mean, it used to be like Leave It to Beaver, and it was all about families, the Brady Bunch coming together, blending families. and it was about families, and you don't see a lot of family stuff now, at least not without sarcasm and kids being mouthy or sneaky or doing things to get in trouble, or the family shows aren't even what they used to be. It's not about families working together, about doing chores or helping out. It's kids playing video games and sitting on their bums, or so I don't know. Maybe I'm not watching the right programs, but
Crazy. Well, and I guess once a person does establish that they have a relationship and that they want to actually have a deeper relationship, right? A more loving, a more kind, a more generous, more close relationship. So how do you get that?
how do you get the close relationship?
How do you build on, you have a good relationship, but how do you make it great?
I always feel like you got to look at yourself first. Where are you blocking yourself from that relationship? And we go back to free will, and you have to have a partner that's wanting to open and be in a closer relationship too. So if your communication isn't there, if one person wants to be off playing games, for the guys, maybe they're out watching football games and hanging out at the bar. For the girls, maybe they're doing whatever girls do, shopping or movies or whatever. If they're not both engaging in it, then you got a little more of a challenge. But if you've got a partner that's willing to work through stuff with you, hang on to them, because it's your best bet. Because here's the thing: if you break up with somebody because things are uncomfortable, not because you didn't love them anymore or whatever, but it just seems like communication breakdown, and you leave that relationship, but you didn't resolve what you came together to do, or you didn't heal whatever karma you were looking at in that moment, then guess what? You get to do again. So you're gonna get in another relationship, and eventually it's going to evolve into the same scenario where you got to look at stuff. So I always encourage everyone to look at themselves first. Why is this playing out in your life? And sure, sometimes we're the ones that are used to help somebody else grow and advance and learn, but usually there's an exchange in there somewhere. There's almost always something offered to anyone involved. So to make something deep that's worth, something that you enjoy waking up to, is finding that partner that's going to communicate. Everything else I think you can work on, but the communication, if you don't have that, then it's hard to get the other things to work as well once you hit the roadblocks. And every relation's going to have them. You're going to bump into something that you're eventually not going to agree on, or once you spend a lot of time with somebody, you're going to start having your pet peeves and whatnot. So if you can't figure out how to communicate through them, how to tell people, and here's another thing, we're always evolving, we're always growing. So if you cannot, if you don't have a partner that you can evolve with, that you can open up and say, okay, I'm shifting, there's something different coming in, or I want something to change, and they're not willing to step into that with you or be open to you changing, then that's hard too. So these are all things that I'm sitting here thinking of different people I've worked with, and I'm like, these are the things that they've run into. But when they got the partner that's like, okay, I'm going to support you through that. Let's, you need to do these things. Let's do it. And they always come out on the other side much stronger for it. But when you got one partner in resistance and the other one that wants to keep growing, then that's when you run into problems, maybe problems that won't be resolved, and you do end up going separate ways. People do come in for short periods of time. What is that saying? What is it? It's a lifetime. Friends come in for a reason, a season, and a lifetime. So relationships are the same way. They'll come in for reasons, a season, or a lifetime. So not everybody's meant to be together forever. And that's okay.
Right? Well, and it did bring up communication as a key factor in relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
For your children, how good of communicators are they when all they have is the mobile or the video game, or they are not socially engaged on a daily basis because they have a computer in front of them?
Yeah. It's funny you say that because one of my kids right now is not doing so well in school, so he's grounded off the computer. And last night I went upstairs and guess what he was doing? And I was like, you're not supposed to be on that. And I'm going to give you 1 minute to say goodbye to your friends. And, you have a choice. You either hang out on, you can sit on your bed or you do your homework. You don't get to play the computer. And I went into one of the other's bedrooms, talked to him for a little bit, came out, and he's still sitting there, went right back to playing his game. So mommy went and unplugged his computer in the middle of it. So, um, so yeah, the communication there was not going the way it should have. I felt like I was very fair. I gave him time to say goodbye to his friends. I didn't just unplug it in the first place. I was trying to be reasonable, and he pushed me in a corner, called my bluff. So he got unplugged. But one of the things that I do enjoy about my kids though is that if they're upset with me, they'll tell me they're upset with me, or if like my youngest, if something happened at school, he's telling me how it made him feel, you know, and the fact that he knows how it made him feel versus being upset and then just breaking things or sitting in a corner by himself or going to his room and shutting down. He's telling me how it's making him feel. And that makes me very happy because it means that he's identifying with his feelings, and then they can be processed quicker, because the key is feelings want to be felt. So if he's acknowledging that feeling, then it moves away, it can move, it can go. And, I notice that when he does that, by the end of the day, he's in a pretty good mood, and, he's a different kid than when I picked him up from school and he was upset, so if we could all teach our kids more about identifying with their feelings. And you know what? I want to tell everybody it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be angry. Somebody hurt your feelings and it upset you. That's okay. It's not okay to be violent. It's not okay to be vengeful, but it is okay to be angry and honor the fact that it hurt your feelings. And because really that's what anger can boil down to most of the time, is that, somebody that you cared about really hurt your feelings. So, acknowledging that, and then you can move on from it. But when we're not supposed to, or we're trying to be strong and not show the other person that they hurt our feelings, that's not healthy. And it doesn't help a relationship either. If you're in a relationship, they hurt your feelings and you're trying not to let them show you're hurt, they're not going to learn, and you're just going to hold resentment. So, what do you think? Let's put the mic back in your hand.
Well, for example, I think that frequently kids of today don't have the ability to
I'm going to have you get closer to the mic.
Oh, sorry. So actually, I think that they possibly don't have the ability to communicate as well, because the entire time how they communicate is just through text, right?
Yeah.
Mean, hurtful, angry things through text. It's not like being face to face, or even over the phone, because it's really different. It's just words. It's nothing. And I think that's why they have the cyber stalking so much too. You can harass people, and it means nothing. Where when you're face to face, you get to feel the person's emotions. You can see them face to face. And I would say people don't have the balls these days to actually communicate face to face.
Right. And I don't know, you said you're on a laptop. You might be resting your mic on something that's muffling you.
Oh, so sorry.
That ain't much better. We could still hear you, but it was a little bit quiet.
Okay, sorry.
We're lip reading. That's why you're seeing me go. Just kidding.
No, I just think that honestly, And I could be totally off there because, I mean, my youngest child is 24, and
Yeah.
so, right. But it just seems like whenever you even go to a restaurant and you'll see a couple on a date and they both have their phones in their hands and they're unengaging with each other. It's like, what world are we living in?
Oh, Halloween. We just had Halloween, and there was a group of teenagers that were walking down my street, and there's probably at least 5 of them. Every single one of them had their phone like this. None of them were being in the moment of trick-or-treating or looking at all the costumes that were going on around them and just enjoying the fact that they were out. Halloween was a beautiful night. Stars were out. It was clear out. It wasn't even that cold. And here they are. They're all do in their phones and walking down the street. And I wanted to take a picture of it because I was like, it's one of those memes that you see where these kids are all and then they all run into something because no one's looking where they're going or whatever. And it's like, those guys are bound to fall down or something. No one's looking. But yeah, it is. It's kind of like, okay, guys, put the phone away and just look around you. Look at all these cute little kids that are dressed up. Look at what's going on over here. Look at this house is all decorated and they're doing things to scare people and be funny and they were just missing it. They're all just out for the candy and texting on their phones and probably finding out how much candy their other friends got, whatever teenagers do. But they were not enjoying the moment for sure and taking it in. But I had a lot of fun sitting out there though, watching all the little kids come up in their little outfits. It was so cute. Anyway, so in a nutshell, when somebody meets somebody new, what's your advice?
I'm a feeler, right? So I totally use all my emotions and make it, and I'm all go for it.
Go for it.
I'm all just go for it. Put everything on the line. What have you got to lose? You can take your, but it's like
I'm going to give you a scenario. I'm going to give you a scenario, and then we'll see where you take me. Okay. And I'm not sure if I'm just my headset or what it is, but if you could talk just a little bit louder, it might be easier because I find myself really focusing on you when you're talking. Okay, so here's the scenario. I meet somebody. We go out on a date. I really like this guy. So I'm thinking, gosh, if we got married, would I move with him or would he move in with me? Which one of us would have to change that? And he's got 2 small kids that he sees, half time. So how would we be able to arrange that into our households where I got kids home full time, blah, blah, blah. And I got dogs and he's got cats. And so how are they going to all be able to mingle? And I wonder what his family's like. How many siblings does he have? I wonder if I'd get along with his parents. Um, and I wonder if he's got a good retirement account and a good job and health insurance. This is date 1. What did I do wrong?
holy crap, Tracie! I'm just throwing it all out there. Just throwing it all. Who gives a shit? No, that's too much worry. Are you kidding me?
What am I doing wrong?
Honey, you're overthinking, of course, right?
Overthinking it. Yes.
It's so simple. You're overthinking. Heavens, no.
What would you recommend I do?
I recommend you go on a date, and after your date, if you had a good time, you give them a call, say, I had a good time. I hope we can meet up again. And
Boom. Yeah. Okay, people, quit overthinking it. Be in the moment. I kind of exaggerated it a little, but I've had lots of, well, what if, and I've done that myself, where I like somebody, but then I'm seeing all these roadblocks that in the future, if it went well, these are roadblocks. That
you know what Steve says? He says everything is possible. So even though we have all these roadblocks, if you care enough about somebody, you're going to make adjustments one way or the other.
Exactly.
Things will always work out. But I guess I think that fear stops us a lot. That's what I think. I think fear.
Yeah, and I think that we need to be flexible in, I guess I could use childhood maybe. Kids grow up with this dream. I want to get married, to have a house with a fence and a dog and a cat and and 3 kids and duh. And then they meet somebody that wants an apartment in the city with 1 cat and 1 kid, and it's like, uh-oh, we don't match. But, maybe somewhere in there is a compromise, and not to rule that out on a first date. So, but those questions probably shouldn't even be asked on a first date, people. But it is, again, it is the fast track dating these days. So it's about being in the moment. First, recognize, do you like this person? Are you having fun? There's no way for you to know on a first date if you're really in love. You might feel something for that person, but you won't really know if you're in love with them until you really spend some time with them. You're not going to know a person on a first date, not unless you've been friends for years and years before you went out on that date. So give it a chance. Let it, if you just know you don't like them, you don't like them. Everybody's had those dates too. But if you're attracted to somebody and you like them, but then there was something about their story that didn't fit your story, come on, be flexible. Be open to something changing. So don't be so set in your ways that, it makes it impossible for someone else to come in. Yeah. All right. Well, we've gone on and on here, so I love that we did relationships and love. I thank you for being part of my Patreon page with this interview, and hopefully a lot of people will gain insight and pleasure out of our stories. So you're going to stay on the line, but I'm going to end the recording. So bye-bye, everybody on Patreon. Thank you for listening. And this is Lisa Courtney. Oh, tell everybody how to reach you.
Oh, at www.lisakcourtney.com.
And I will put that link on the bottom of this recording. So if you would like to get a hold of Lisa, let's tell everybody what you do, I guess. That would be also a nice benefit, that they know why they're getting a hold of you.
That sounds lovely. Well, so actually right now I'm doing psychic readings, mentoring, you name it. You give me a call and we work through issues. What my actual practice is about is putting love back into the places we aren't loving ourselves. Very good at that. And that's because I've done a lot of work myself.
That's the best kind of learning, isn't it?
I know it's the best. It's challenging, but I've really done it. So, yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you for being on the face-to-face with me, and hopefully we'll get to do this again. I know I can find something else for us to talk about.
All right, honey. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.